pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mind you, please silence your electronic devices, that would be appreciated. Good evening, everyone. I call the Village of Massena Board of Trustees meeting to order for November 1st, 2016. Roll call, Mr. Otto.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Carville. Here. Mr. Shays.
Here.
Mr. LeBeer. Here. I'm here. We have an addition to the agenda. We will put it under 6I, new business, healthcare proposed resolution authorizing to change health insurance coverage for village employees, retirees, and eligible dependents. So it'll go 6I. Approval meeting minutes for October 4th, 2016.
Second.
Mr. LeBeer, second by Mr. Shays. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Committee reports. Code enforcement, Mr. Carville, Mr. LeBeer.
Nothing at this time.
Economic Development Committee, Mr. Offeld, Mr. LeBeer.
Nothing.
Fire Committee, Mr. Carville, Mr. LeBeer.
We met with both the volunteers and the drivers and the union, everybody together, but nothing to report.
Personnel Committee, Mr. Carville, Mr. Shays.
We had some interviews we set in last week for police and fire, and then we're going to be setting in with some more this week with the fire.
Personnel Committee, Mr. Carville, I'm sorry. Police Committee, Mr. Carville, Mr. Shays.
Met with the chief. Of course, they're very busy with what's been going on in the community. Then we have an item in the agenda for later on.
Recreation Commission, Mr. Shays.
Our meeting will be next week.
Okay. Street Committee, Mr. Offeld, Mr. LeBeer.
Nothing.
Water and Sewer, Mr. Offeld, Mr. LeBeer.
Nothing.
Initial public comment period. As always, we please ask you to stand and state your name for the record. Initial public comment. Seeing none, moving on, we have no old business, new business. Appointment of Police Officer Sean Hatch, Police Department. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple weeks ago, we had several interviews and I conducted background investigations. And I'd asked that the board authorize me to hire Sean W. Hatch. He's a candidate in the St. Lawrence County Civil Service. Whilst he's currently a student at SUNY Potsdam. He served in the Marine Corps from 2012 and honorably discharged through July 2016. A starting date would be determined once he successfully completes the requirements as set forth by county personnel in our own guidelines.
So moved.
Mr. Carville.
Second.
Second by Mr. Shays. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Accept resignation, Frank Hutt, Village of Massena Planning Board. Mr. Hutt's a longtime member. Regret seeing him go. Mr. LeBeer.
Second.
Second by Mr. Shays. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Award bid, Home Depot, recycling containers for village residents. Mr. Fayette.
Yes, back in November 2012, I wrote a grant for recycling containers. We were successful finally this year, and it was approved last meeting to go out and solicit bids for this. We did receive 4 bidders, 3 from the local area and 1 was from Los Angeles. But anyway, the lowest bid that we received was from Home Depot Massena for $65,575 for 4,300 containers. And although our grant is for a matching grant of $84,800, half of that is $42,400, which is the state's going to pick up. That's the remaining balance of that can be used for us to distribute those cans to the local residents in our area. So I would recommend that we award the low bid to Home Depot from Massena for a total cost of $65,575. And again, it does not include delivery, that price, but the overall amount that we are going to cost us is probably
So moved.
in good shape.
Second.
Mr. Uphold, second by Mr. Shea, discussion.
Kudos on writing that grant, and loosely related, didn't we receive another grant as well?
Yes, absolutely. And it was the same time I drafted the grant for our recycling truck, which we did purchase back 2 years prior to me writing the grant. And doing that grant, we were awarded that grant, but it has to go through the Senate committee, the Finance Committee at this time. But it's just a formality, it's got to go through it. We were given the nod that we're going to get that grant, but again, it's just a waiting game with the state.
That's good to know those apps.
Thank you.
What's the timeframe?
When state finance committee gets together. So I'm hoping this next year we'll have that, we can put it back in our account.
I did have one person ask me, can they still use their old containers once the new ones are issued? They
Absolutely.
only have a little bit of
Absolutely.
further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Proposed resolution, support proposed repurposing of NIPA funds under the 10-year review agreement. I'll explain to you what this is about. This is part of the discussion with the local communities portion of the task force that came together. NIPA approached us. They want to repurpose some remaining funds and utilize it for the purpose of the marketing that's part of the NIPA relicensing agreement. So this is money that was going to farms, which was reducing their electricity cost. The numbers that I received today, because I asked for specifics on how many accounts we were talking. We're talking about 2,600 accounts. So it'd be farms in St. Lawrence County, 858 accounts. Doesn't necessarily mean that many farms. It could be certain farms could have multiple accounts. Jefferson County had 1,364 accounts, and Franklin County had 386. So this part of that agreement, the money this is being taken from sunsets, it expires next year. So instead of spending that $10 million in that 1 year, balance it, they want to spread it over 5 and use it for the marketing portion of this plan and allow to attract companies to come to the region and give them affordable power at a discounted rate. This was not met without lots of discussion by the local task force. There was a lot of discussion back and forth, and ultimately a number of the entities have agreed to support this after talking it out and coming to the decision that we did, at least as a group.
So these reductions in the electric bills, is this something that the owners of the farms have been previously promised and are counting on?
They could be counting on it. What they've seen is that, what we've been told is that they've seen a reduction in their power rates just because power has been down anyways. But yeah, it will impact those people receiving that.
Has the town taken any action on this yet?
The town adopted it last week at the budget hearing.
What's the guarantee that this power is going to stay in North Country? I mean, we have, we get our electric bills from Massena Electric, and there's purchase powers on there, seems like every month. As we approach this time of year, sometimes the purchase power is more than the regular part of the bill. I don't know why, the power man's 10 miles away, we end up with the short end of the stick. They took all the land, they don't pay any taxes. We should reap some of this benefit. I mean, we should be able to, at the peak times when, when we're short of power and have to go out on the market, being that it's so close, then we should be first in line to get that extra power that Power Authority has in this plant, in this facility.
This particular portion is a 5-year commitment, so we know at least that this particular portion of that power is being agreed to for a 5-year period. Motion by Mr. Levere.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Shays. Discussion. Resolution, poll individually. Mr. Upfeld?
Stayed?
Abstention. Mr. Carver?
No.
Mr. Shays?
Yes.
Mr. Levere?
Yes.
I vote yes. Resolution carries. Proposed resolution authorize professional service agreement with DANK for 2016 Affordable Housing Corporation Home Improvement Grant. As you know, we were awarded the grant. These expenses are covered as part of the grant.
This is just for the administration for the work on, so moved.
Mr. Carver.
Second.
Second by Mr. Levere. Discussion. Resolution, poll individually. Mr. Offeld. Mr. Carver.
Aye.
Mr. Shays.
Aye.
Mr. Levere.
Aye.
Resolution carries. Authorization to canvass for motor equipment operator. Mr. Fayette.
Yes, we have another individual at the DPW that's seeking another, it's a disability, retirement. And, so we're losing, another motor equipment operator because of the injury disability he really suffered. What I'm trying to do is just keep our staffing level the same as it was, back over the year. We haven't had this individual, give us any value since May, and it really shows out there with, the type of lack of work that we've gotten accomplished. We do have some work left out there, and one guy can make a huge difference, but he does make a difference, because what we end up doing at the village is robbing Peter to pay Paul. We take from the street crew and we put on the garbage crew, because the garbage has gotta be picked up 4 days a week. And so, the street crew suffers. So what I'm trying to do is just maintain the staffing level that we have at the village DPW for this, for each of the departments. That's what I'm looking to do.
This is authorization just to canvass at this time? So moved. Second.
Second by Mr. Offeld. Discussion.
Superintendent, what I'm thinking, and I can touch base with you offline as well, is before the time comes where you're requesting to actually fill, if you can come up with, I don't know if it'll be data or projects, but kind of a what-if scenario. What are the ramifications if the village was not to move forward? What service would be impacted? Potential for overtime, those type items. It just would be very helpful when the time comes to decide whether or not to hire.
I think we should wait on this until the current employee is off the payroll. We'll be adding another person to the payroll, with insurances and everything else.
Not for canvassing.
Not forgetting, I'm about to talk about hiring.
Right.
I think we should wait till that person's off the payroll. The simple reason is it's, by using the person from the DPW crew, what it does is in the end, it's gonna help us out on the general fund till the end of this, time this current employee is still on the payroll. So by putting another person on, it's gonna cost us in both ends. It's gonna cost us in the general fund, and it's gonna cost us in the garbage fund. So by not putting that person on, we're gonna save in the general fund, at the time. So,
It will not cost you any more than what you currently have budgeted. You have that employee budget in both accounts.
And again, my motion is to authorize to canvass Mount Higher.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed. Motion carries. Appointment, Linda Dumont, part-time housing rehabilitation secretary, effective 11/2/2016. We interviewed last week, held 2 further interviews with employees. Mr. Shea sat in on that, and this is our recommendation.
This is replacing.
This replaces the
So moved. Second.
Mr. Offeld, Mr. Deshays. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion sale of surplus property, 536, 540 South Main Street. As you know, we've been in discussions with a firm regarding the former DPW site on South Main Street. I provided you with a copy of the contract. We are in the final stages of making the final edits, which we think we've got this to where both sides agree. We've taken into account the winter and the need to keep some supplies there. Find it.
What's the amount? The sale amount?
I'm sorry?
What's the sale amount? I don't know. $181,455. So
Yeah.
moved.
Second. Oh, so just discussion tonight.
This is just discussion tonight. We've got some things we need to put in order we need to call a public hearing. We're going to have to declare this property as surplus. We also have to deal with the zoning issue.
I thought we already declared this.
We've not officially declared it surplus, so we need to do that. So the thoughts are we do that at the next meeting.
Yeah.
We also need to rezone that, so we're going to have to schedule a public hearing. And I've been counseled several times today on this, but it would appear that it's going to go to the county first. We get some paperwork to send it tomorrow to get it on their November agenda, planning office over there. And if they approve it, then we can proceed and schedule a public hearing and go with that. I wanted to get it out there. As you know, we have a couple of ideas as to what we're going to do with regard to the new property. So I'll be reaching out to those residents so that we can begin some serious discussions with them to do the best we can to alleviate any concerns that they have.
You're talking about the urban drive concerns?
I think it's important to reiterate what you already said. We have the ability to maintain our supplies at current location for this winter, so that negates any need to rush or any. So we have time to make the right decision on those options.
Questions?
Next meeting.
So what I'd like to do is we'd like to establish a public hearing to rezone that property for, what's the next date?
15?
5:30?
Yep.
So moved.
Mr. Revere?
Second.
By Mr. Offel. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Healthcare, proposed resolution authorizing the change of health insurance coverage for village employees, retirees, and eligible dependents. Mr. Revere?
Yes, so I'm learning more and more about the Affordable Care Act and healthcare than I ever thought I would know. So as many of you may recall, 2 Fridays ago, we had a special meeting because we needed to adopt a resolution to change our healthcare provider over to NISHIP. Change in the Affordable Care Act regulations prevented us from staying with our current provider. So we were forced to choose either between NISHIP or a community-rated plan. Community-rated plan, without rehashing everything we went over at that meeting, just were not comparable and were somewhat risky to the village long-term in terms of finances. And they weren't equitable to employees or retirees. So given the short time span, we opted to go with NISHIP. Trustee Offeld and myself have spent quite a bit of time examining these plans and the various details, and one of the concerns we had was for a small subgroup, that would be retirees who are Medicare eligible. And it's important to make that distinction. I'm not referring to all retirees, I'm referring to retirees that are Medicare eligible. Those that are currently Medicare eligible currently have a plan where they are not exposed to co-pays for many services. In order for them to receive a more equitable plan, NISHIP was not the best option. The NISHIP plan, although it is the most equitable for our current employees and for retirees that are not Medicare, is not comparable to Medicare eligible retirees' current plan. And I can clarify all that after the meeting if anyone has questions. But basically, we were under the impression that we had to move them all to NISHIP or nothing. And then our current advisor and broker actually found out that there were some regulations that might allow us to better serve that subgroup. So the reason for the late minute addition is Trustee Offeld and myself have been going back and forth with the various insurance companies, and we received a confirmation at 4:19 p.m. today that we can actually move the Medicare eligible retirees, current eligible retirees, to a different plan other than NISHIP. So what we're doing is we have a proposed resolution that changes slightly what we did 2 Fridays ago. All current employees will still move to NISHIP. That's the most equitable plan in their point of view, and that seemed like the fairest thing to do given the short term. All current retirees that are not Medicare eligible will continue to move to NISHIP as discussed at the special meeting. However, per this resolution, employees that are currently eligible for Medicare shall instead be covered through United Healthcare Medicare Advantage National PPO with RX plan provided by First Niagara. This plan is incredibly similar to what they are currently on. It has the same copay structure, give or take a minor difference here or there, and it actually has a slightly less expensive copay for RX. So we actually view it as a win for this group, considering what they would have been exposed to with NISHIP. And on the plus side, it also saves the village about $60,000. So we're looking at it as a win-win. We didn't want to confuse matters more, but it was just a necessary change as the new information was made available to Trustee Offeld and myself. You know, we of course kept the mayor informed, and that's why we're here tonight with this proposed resolution to make that change. First Niagara will handle the enrollment, working with Lisa in our office, and you know, hopefully that will help ease any confusion that's out there. But we remain committed to really making sure that the most equitable and fair plan, given the short time frame, is offered, and that we're also making decisions that are in the best interest of the village. And we really think that this resolution, this change tonight, moves us closer in that direction.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Mr. Levere. Discussion. Resolution, poll individually. Mr. Offeld?
Aye.
Mr. Carl?
Stay.
Mr. Deshaies?
Approved.
Mr. Levere?
Aye.
Resolution carries. Voucher warrants.
I move that the vouchers signed by Trustee Carl and myself be approved.
Second.
Second by Mr. Carville. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Monthly reports, you should have the volunteer fire department report there on. Communications correspondence, I don't have any. Closing public comment period.
Joel Green, 60 Bridge Ave. Just one more quick question. When will the new recycled containers be hitting the streets? Expected?
I'm not so sure right yet, the board had given us approval to purchase, now I gotta go back to the vendor, put in the purchase order with the vendor, and it should be, I would suspect, within a month, by the time we get it, and then the plan goes into the distribution at that point. So hopefully by the first of the year, that we'll have them distributed amongst our residents here.
Okay, thanks.
Further public comment.
I've got a few questions here. A couple things I just wanted to make sure that I'm clear about. The grant for the recycle containers, was that $84,400, half of that is coming from the grant and the other half of that, so that's just the max that they'll pay is half of that $84,400. Okay.
But it's gonna come in under projected.
I suspect, well, 65,000 for the recycling containers themselves, and then distribution.
Administrative distribution.
So it'll be close,
It'll
but
be close.
still good figuring.
So of that 65,000, we get 42,000 covered, or we get half of 65,000?
No, it'd be half of 65,000.
All right.
Plus half of any fees associated with distribution.
Distribution, correct.
Yeah.
Okay. And the NIPA power allocation. Another thing I just want to make sure I'm clear on here, this farm program is going to expire at the end of the year, and they're taking it in
2017, one more year,
so it expires in a year.
yes.
Okay. And if this program conversion passes, if they turn it into this marketing thing, it's going to be a 5-year marketing program? Okay.
$2 million a year for $10 million.
Linda Dumont's position, is that something that's being paid for with the zombie grant?
Part of the hours will be covered in that grant, yes.
Okay, and the DPW lot, the old DPW lot on South Main Street, can you say who's buying it?
You know, I think it's out there publicly, but because we're in discussions with them, I'm not going to comment on that, but certainly it's out there in a number of mediums and ways, because of the way they're financing it and getting their support.
Okay. When you said you had to deal with the zoning issue, what is the particular zoning issue there?
Currently, it's zoned commercial. Pull this up so I'm specifically. So currently, it's zoned, some of it is zoned commercial, some of it's also zoned planned industrial development, which is what it needs to be rezoned as. So a portion of it already is PID, but a portion of it is commercial. So it needs to be all rezoned as PID.
Okay. All right. Let me just take one more glance back through here.
You said two, Andy, you're on your fifth question.
I lied. How much are we going to be paying the new patrol officer, Sean Hatch?
Chief?
I don't have the exact amount.
I'll shoot you an email.
What's that?
I can shoot you an email.
Yeah, I can get it for you if you go right downstairs, I have it in the other letter.
Okay, cool. And how much are we paying Linda, I just said her name and I can't remember. Or was it on here? The,
$10.66 per hour.
thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you.
Not a
That's,
single question on my job about healthcare.
You explained it so well.
yeah.
So the Urban Drive, DPW property, that's been made a decision that that's gonna be, so is that zoned, how is that zoned? Is that residential still?
What's the current zoning?
I don't recall. I'd have to look at the zoning, I'm sorry.
I mean, those
We have to
were,
look at zoning. Some of it's greenbelt preservation, so we have some zoning issues there that have to be dealt with also.
okay. So when are you gonna, when is that gonna take place?
That will be at a public meeting with input, I guarantee it.
That'll be at a public meeting?
Yes, you'll be
With
able to ask
notice.
every question you want to ask, guaranteed. I've got
Okay.
questions too, all of us have questions.
Yeah.
Okay, I guarantee it.
And the salt barn is gonna go there?
Mr. Siegman's been the point of contact over there for me anyways, so I'll be reaching out to him to tell him about tonight's developments. And then we try to keep him informed throughout. He's been sharing information with the neighbors over there. So we'll be forthcoming with when the meeting will be so that people have an opportunity to come and talk to us.
Okay,
The best part about public meetings is everybody hears the same thing.
okay,
So I think it's best that, I think it's best that we do it all in public and nobody has any questions when they leave the room. You may not agree with the decision, but nobody's gonna have any questions, okay? I may not agree with the decision.
You're not over there gonna try to sell your house
Well,
either.
Yeah, believe me, I'm on your side, okay? That's all I can say.
Further public comment? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Alba? Was that Mr. Second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Have a good evening, everyone.
Woke up.
You're in Cleveland tonight, right?
Yes.